Hello, welcome to Make Kind Loud, conversations that turn up the volume. And this week, we are talking to Cornell Thomas. Hello, Cornell, how are you?
Louisa, how are you, my friend? Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I am great. Thank you for being here. So I'm just going to tell the people about you, and we're going to dive right on in.
Sure.
Cornell Thomas is the perfect example of turning a loss into a win. 2 weeks away from playing professional basketball in Europe, Cornell suffered a career-ending injury that derailed his dream. Growing up with adversity his whole life allowed Cornell to get past why me and focus on what now. He now shares his story all over the world. Cornell is a multi-book author, an expert in positive self-awareness. He has been endorsed by some of the top experts in his field, including Tony Robbins and Dr. Cornel West. That is amazing. Thank you for joining us. I cannot wait to hear all about your story. But first of all, I'm a huge basketball fan. So so I'm sorry about your injury. What happened?
Yeah, so I started playing basketball really late. I started playing basketball when I was 16 years old. Most kids start at a very young age.
Yeah, sure.
No one in my family played ball. No one. My father passed when I was 4. He was a police officer in Passaic, New Jersey, and did all these great things for the community. But when he passed, my mom raised 5 of us by herself with no money. So we were on our own a lot. We were latchkey kids, right? We come home and we figure out what you're gonna make, etc. So when I was, my mom's from the country. She's from Virginia, a small town called Bursness, Virginia. And I'll never forget, I had a cousin. My cousin, Carlos Taylor, was a 3-sport stud athlete, this big time athlete. and at that time, I went from being 5'6" as a freshman in high school to 6'2" at that moment. So I was a gangly deer. I had no coordination. Walking in a straight line was an effort, right? So I was sitting on my cousin's bed, and I'll never forget, I looked under his bed, and he had all these newspaper articles, and they were of him. I saw a picture of him dunking a basketball. And at that time, I always tell people, I was struggling. So, I had, the high top haircut.
Yeah.
And my brother used to cut it, so it was all sorts of lopsided. My mustache didn't grow in yet, and that was, when MC Hammer was hot. So, I had 2 pair of Hammer pants.
Love it.
It was a struggle. It was I was getting 0 dates. It wasn't dates weren't part of my vocabulary. So when I saw my cousin, I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to, not only be famous, but I can date. This is a win-win. So but we drove back home, and my mom moved us from Passaic, New Jersey to Rockaway. Passaic is inner city. Rockaway is not that at all. So the nearest court was 3 miles away. So I found this basketball in our, bottom of our basement. I walked to the court, and I was like, this is it. This is my new life. Louisa, I threw the ball up. The ball went over the hoop, rolled down the hill. I was like, okay, let me try that again. I did that for 2 more hours and realized, I stink at basketball. I'm garbage. This is bad. I tell this story at schools, and the kids think I'm making it up, but I swear to you, out of the woods, it seemed came this little 5'8" Filipino guy, and he walked up to me and he said, "My name's Ray. Do you want me to show you how to shoot a basketball?" And if you think about the aesthetics of that, right?
Right.
At that time I was 6'2", and he used to show me how to shoot a basketball, and for the next 2 hours he showed me how to properly shoot a basketball. And I always tell people, Ray changed the trajectory of my life because he planted this seed in my head that if I worked at it, I could get better. And I had my mom's work ethic because she worked 3 jobs since I can remember and raised 5 kids. So I already knew what work looked like. That wasn't the problem.
Right.
I didn't know what to do with this basketball thing. So I went through all these trials and tribulations, got cut from varsity as a junior, barely played as a senior. And my mom sat me down and she said, I can't afford to send you to college. And that's the first time I heard my mom say can't in my life.
Wow.
It hit me hard because I was like, if this woman is saying can't, this is a dire situation. And so I looked at my mom and said, Mom, I'm going to take a year and a half off from school. I'm going to go to a junior college, 2-year college. I'm going to get a scholarship. And then I'm going to come home, play professional basketball. This is me, not playing any varsity basketball pretty much at all. My mom went to one game when I was in high school, and I was on the bench the whole time. Like, she saw me in the warm-up lines, like, that's my baby. But like after that, like, I didn't play. And so I ended up working 2 jobs. Worked at Foot Action, worked at a pharmacy, and then I ended up going to this place called Sussex County College. And by my second year, it happened. Like, after like 4 or 5 years of playing basketball, all the accolades came. And that's what people don't understand. It's like they always see where you land, right? They don't see the work that you put in.
Right.
So I put in like over 10,000 hours of just getting better. And I got a scholarship to play in North Dakota, which I didn't even know where North Dakota was. I didn't even know where it was located. And my mom was like, do you know where North Dakota is? I'm like, no. I was like, that's where they have the monument. She's like, no, dummy, that's South Dakota. She's like, got a map. Like, you are here. This is North Dakota. And I'm like, okay. I was like, it's a free ride. It's free education. My mom was like, bye. Like, literally, like,
right. See you later.
Yeah, I said, go fly, bird, go fly. And so I get to North Dakota, and it's a different experience. So it's a culture shock, but I've already been through my first culture shock going from Passaic to Rockaway.
Right.
So that was the first culture shock. But then there was another culture shock going from New Jersey to North Dakota.
Right.
And I remember being on campus, and one of my friends came up to me on the team, and he was like, Cornel, when people say hi to you here, they want to have a conversation. And it threw me off. Like, in Jersey, like, you walk past someone, what's up, and you just keep walking, right? Like, that's high school. Like, I was like, hey, what up? Like, we just walk. Like, no, like, here, when you say hi to someone, they want to see how you're doing. So I'm like, okay, this is very different. So, like, out in North Dakota, like, learning these, like, people actually want to have a conversation and talk.
Right.
It's a slower pace. It's Midwest. It's not wild and crazy and people going on. So I learned a lot there in terms of, like, socially as a man. I was growing. I had to do everything by myself. Came back home, and then started playing with NBA guys. I found this gym in Somerville, New Jersey, where there's old NBA guys, current NBA guys playing, and I started playing with them, working out with them 5 days a week.
Right.
And so I'm pulling up in this 1988 Mercury Stable where I have to keep the heat on just for the car to run. I have, like, literally a CD player. Kids, look it up. You've got to Google it now. A CD player, and it's like, pull it up, and I'm next to, like, Lamborghinis and Ferraris and, like, big Benzes and all. And I'm like, these are the guys that I watch on TV. And I said, but here I am working out with them 7 years removed from being cut from varsity.
Right.
And so I ended up getting a contract to play in Lisbon, Portugal. And I'm a week away from going. And I was outside with my friends just shooting around. And we started playing 3-on-3. And I went to the basket, and I heard a pop. And I hear this pop, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you're trying to pretend that it's not there, right? Like, you're like, so my friends come over, and they go to pick me up, and I can't put any weight on my right foot. And so I'm like, oh my goodness. So I get myself to the hospital, and I'm sitting in the emergency room, and I'm just like, I don't want to call my mom. Because if I call my mom, it means whatever happens, it makes this very real.
Right.
I ended up calling my mom because the pain was too much. And we were about 40 minutes away from the hospital. My mom got there in like 15. Like, to this day, I don't know who she killed to get to the hospital, but she got there super quick, right? So the doctor goes, Cornel, I'm going to grab the back of your calf muscle. If you feel excruciating pain, we have to do surgery on Thursday. So the time frame is it's Sunday. He's going to do surgery Thursday. I'm supposed to leave that next Sunday. He grabbed the back of my calf muscle. I felt excruciating pain. And then Thursday morning, they wheeled me in for surgery. Thursday afternoon, they wheeled me out at a hard cast from the middle of my thigh to the end of my foot. By Thursday evening, my contract was already voided and canceled. And that following Friday morning, I watched my mom. My mom came in my room, kissed me on my forehead, and I watched her drive to one of the jobs that told her she'd never have to work again. And I tell people, like, to that point, that was the worst day of my life. We grew up, we went through a lot of stuff, but nothing was worse than that because I felt like I let her down. Like, I felt, here I am working as hard as I'm working, so you don't have to work anymore, right? And later on, I would find out that when people go through some type of, like, any type of dramatic change, like, it mirrors when someone finds out they have a terminal illness. There's, like, these 5 stages you go through.
Yep.
The stages, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And I was thinking about my situation when I first learned that, and I was like, I went through all those stages, but I went through all those stages in a day. I said, I didn't go through those stages in a year, 2 years. It hit me like immediately, like, okay, when I got to that fourth stage, that depression stage, depression for me, when I talk to people about it, it's like if you're sitting on your bed in a room, you see where the light is. Someone turns that light off. You know it's right there, but your body can't move to turn the light off.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's deep.
Suck it in, right? Like you're like you can't move.
Right.
When you realize that on the other end, like if you can tell yourself on the other end of this depression is acceptance. And once I can accept change has to happen, I can go to whatever that change is going to look like. Once you can start accepting that change can happen, then you can slowly start getting yourself up. That doesn't mean that when you turn the lights on, everything is going to be great. All that means is now we can start moving.
Yeah.
If you're not moving, right, all you're doing is you're stuck with your thoughts. And when you're stuck with your thoughts, that could be a very dangerous place, especially when you're going through something traumatic. So I called my best friend up, my friend Kevin, and I said, Kev, come pick me up on Monday. And he said, why? I said, we're going to go to the gym and shoot. And he was like, but you can't. I said, just pick me up.
Yeah.
For the next 6 months, I shot from a chair. And it did nothing for my basketball game, but it did everything for my mindset.
Right.
Because I was able to take for an hour and a half, take my mind away from my current situation, focus it on something else. And when you're going through like heavy stuff, sometimes you have to get out of your zone, right? And go do something, like get your mind away, detach it from whatever it is, or modify. Like I couldn't stand up and shoot, but I could sit down. I just modified. It's like when you're working out for the first time and you might not be able to run a mile, but you might be able to walk a lap.
Yeah.
And then after a while, after a couple months, you're running miles. Like, I can't believe I was only walking a lap. It's like getting yourself mentally prepared, and it's doing that in small increments. And when you're battling something as dark and as dangerous as depression, it's the baby steps that lead to the leaps and bounds. It's not the leaps and bounds. It's all baby steps. I don't care what people tell you.
Exactly.
Balloons and butterflies and rainbows and all those other things. It ain't that. It could be you crawling, right? You could be crawling just to get up, and then baby steps until you start moving again.
But you're still moving forward. I mean, you said so much within that time frame, and I love it. So let's unpack a little bit of it. So you started basketball at 16, which is late in the game of sports, but you didn't care. You just started. You were like, I need some dates. Need some dates. And then this guy who could have just been an angel, Ray, pops up and said, "Hey man, let me teach you how to shoot." And that is something beautiful because he didn't have to do that. Like, did you know Ray?
Not at all.
So Ray just came up to you and was like, "Let me help this little."
I saw Ray 3 times in my life, my whole life.
Yeah.
The first time he showed me how to shoot. One time in between, and this is at least 2, 3, 4 years almost past. And I saw him when I got my scholarship. Right before I went to school, I was walking in the mall, and I saw him. And it was years since I've seen him.
Yeah.
And I ran up to him and I said, "Ray, do you remember me?" And he goes, "Of course I do." I said, "Ray, I got a scholarship to play basketball." And he goes, "I knew you would. I knew you were going to be great." And it's like,
that's phenomenal.
Crying. I was like,
Yeah.
But that's why I do what I do. That's why I go and I speak, and I want to be Ray for other people. I want to be that guy for other people. Like I want to pour into people and let them know how amazing they are.
Yeah.
On a daily basis. Because all I needed was that little thing for someone to say that, like, "Hey, I believe in you," and that's all it took.
So during that moment when Ray came up to you, did you know that this was a life-changing moment in that moment?
Not at all.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, this is just some nice guy that showed me how to shoot. I mean, when I say I was bad, if people had footage, it's blackmail material. Like it was bad. Like it was baby deer bad. And I just never stopped working. And that's the thing. Like when I talk about the baby steps, it's like I just didn't stop working. So even when I was getting cut and people was telling me how bad I was and all this other stuff, I just didn't stop my work. I just didn't stop training.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. That's another thing I want to point out is that you started basketball late, 16, didn't really play during your high school career, but you still told your mom, you were like, listen, this is the plan.
Yeah. This is the plan. And my mom, to her credit, right? And it's like, she was like, all right, baby boy. She's like, show me. And it's like, cool. Like, and that's the thing. It's so important for parents to understand, like, whatever your kid is telling you they want to be,
right?
If you see them working towards it, man, don't discourage it. Don't discourage it. You know, if it's not something harmful, you know, if it's not something that's hurtful to people, then let them be that thing. Let them go after it, because in that pursuit, there's so many lessons.
Yeah.
My lessons were in the pursuit of basketball. It wasn't just people like, oh, well, aren't you sad that you didn't? No, because I wouldn't have my family. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. There's thousands of people that I never would have interacted with.
Right.
So in that pursuit, though, that's where the lesson is. The magic's in the pursuit. It's not in the destination. Yeah.
And that's so key, because, you know, your mom could have been like, listen, man, you didn't play. Go get a job.
Yeah.
Let that go. But no, she was like, all right, well, go for it. And
go for it.
Yeah. Which led you to North Dakota. This is hilarious that you went to North Dakota, because one of my nieces and I talk about who lives in North Dakota.
Yeah.
Who goes to North Dakota? And here you are, live and in person. You went to North Dakota.
That's a great question to ask, because I'll tell you right now, outside of the people I went to school with, I can't tell you any.
Right.
You just don't meet people that are like, where are you from? North Dakota. Like, you just don't meet them.
That is like, so true. That is so true. So
I meet Jersey people everywhere. Like, I'll be in different countries, and I'll meet someone from New Jersey or New York.
Yeah. Most definitely. And so I've never met anyone from North Dakota. And so what was that experience like? I know you said it was culture shock, but like when you first got there, like what was that?
When I first got there, I wish I had the picture so I could show you. I'll find the picture and send it to you. It's in my mom's house. I had a T-shirt that said Jersey on it, right? I'm young.
Yeah.
It said Jersey. Right. I had some green shorts. I'm like, yeah, you know, you can't tell me nothing. It's like the second week of September. It's 45 degrees. I get off the plane with a T-shirt and shorts. It's 45 degrees. Yeah. And I get off, and my coach was like this little short, like Weasley looking dude, and he goes, you might want to get a winter coat. And I'm like, man, you know. But I mean, there was times where it was 48 below with the wind chill.
That's crazy. I can't even comprehend that. I can't, there's no concept for me of that.
Imagine plugging in your car, plugging the engine, right? To start. So we would have snow, like in May, there was still like snow around. Like we would have snowfalls where they would be like, okay, well tonight we're gonna have 3.5 feet of snow.
That's crazy.
I'm like,
yeah.
What?
Right. Yeah.
And like you drive, when we would take the charter bus to go to games, it was just flat. Like everything's flat. But the craziest thing about like the kids from North Dakota probably thought we were all nuts, like all the kids that were from like the city or whatever. We're driving, and I swear to Louisa, we're driving, and I look to my right, and there's a field of like buffalo, like wild buffalo. And we're like, all the black kids, like, we're all freaking out. We're like, oh, buffalo. Right? Like, I'm like, the most exotic animal I've ever seen was like a possum before.
Right.
I'm like, bro, this is some National Geographic type stuff. Like, this is a buffalo, like right here, buffalo, a field of them. And the North Dakota kids were like, what's wrong with y'all? Like,
that's what we have here.
It was just, but like, we never had the means to travel. Right? So we never had the means to go places. Like we would go to my grandma's house in Virginia. We'd go back home. Like I was on a plane one time before then. I was at Disney World when I was 5. And then we came back. So we never had the means. So to fly out to North Dakota, well, actually fly into Minneapolis, then fly out to North Dakota. That was the second time that I was on a plane. Yeah. Right. And I'm just like, I'm in a whole new world. It's a new time zone. It's like everything's different. And when I got back home, I was happy to be back home. I mean, my last semester, I took 24 credits and I did 2 internships.
Wow. So you were ready.
Yeah. I was like, I'm ready to go. Yeah. But it was a different experience. But overall, the people that were there, like, were just very nice, very sweet people. Like, you know, there's a lot of love out there, but
Yeah.
I was ready to come to Jersey because it was just like, I was like, it's a little bit too slow.
A little bit too slow. Yeah. Everybody wants to have a conversation with you. It's just a little
now,
ahead.
Yeah. Now I do it all the time. Now I'd be fine. I have conversations all the time. But back young Cornell was like, "What's up, man? Like what's up?"
Yeah.
Keep it
going. What's wrong with him? We just trying to have a conversation.
Why is he so mean? Why is he just giving me this? What does this mean?
Right. What is that?
What's that? Is he trying to make something work?
That is crazy. That's hilarious. All right, well, let's fast forward. You've done all that. Before that, I want to talk about the part where you injured yourself and you said you felt like you disappointed your mom because you had already told her that you're not going to have to work ever again. I got you. This is the plan. Yeah. How did you get through that part?
Yeah, that's a great question. Here's the thing. When people say, like, again, like these motivational speakers or whatever, get through it. It ain't really about getting through it because something like that, you always remember.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When I get through something, that means like I've destroyed the thing that's in front of me, right? You're always going to have that memory. So sometimes it's just getting around it or getting, right? Or getting like a different route that you have to take. So I will always remember the injury, but it's a different thought process. Now I have a story to tell people, about adversity and getting through it, like around it. So for me, it was just those slow baby steps of reframing the injury. And I ended up coaching basketball right after I played at the same junior college. I didn't want to coach. I was only 24 years old, but And when I started coaching them, I started getting all these kids from the inner city, Baltimore, Newark, all these places. And I'm 24. Some of these jokers are 22.
Yeah.
And I got to teach these guys how to be good students, how to be men, how to be blah, blah, blah. But I realized that I was put on this earth to help people. I just thought it was through basketball. I didn't know what was coming next. So I just immersed myself into the game of basketball. Like, I'm going to be Cornel the basketball coach now, not Cornel the basketball player. And I mean, every book, every DVD, every coaching clinic you can think of, your boy was there, just trying to get these kids right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. Absolutely love it. So fast forward to today, you're a thought leader. You're endorsed by Tony Robbins, Cornel West. How did you get from basketball coach to today?
Well, so my goal as a basketball coach was to eventually coach at a Division I school.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to coach at a big Division I school. I want to coach at a small Division I school and beat all the big Division I schools.
I love that. I love that attitude. Yeah,
that's my mindset. So I was like, I just want to destroy all these dudes that cheat and give kids money illegally. So
it happens. It happens.
Yeah. I was on some other stuff. Then, I did 6 years at Sussex County College, and had some really good years, had some lean years, but none of the Division I coaches would talk to me because I didn't have any bargaining chips. Right, none of my players were going to that level.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to this place called Blair Academy in Blairstown, New Jersey, which was and still is a national powerhouse for basketball.
Okay.
This Hall of Fame. I mean, he's not in the Hall of Fame yet. He will be when he retires. Coach, his name's Joe Montagna. And we met actually because he used my guys from junior colleges as clinicians for this clinic that he used. He couldn't use his high school players. So we met, and he asked me what I want to do with basketball. I want to coach Division I. And he's like, you should come over here as my assistant. He's like, but, I want you to think as a head coach. He's like, you've already been a head coach for college. We can, co-coach this. And I was like, bro, let's go. So my first year there, we won a state championship. And I never won a championship before as a player or as a coach at that point. And me and Joe just got tight. And it was 2000, maybe into 2011. I was on my Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading it, and my timeline was like just ultra negative. And it was like people that I know, like these are people that like I rock with, like I'm
right.
And I'm like, what's going on? I mean, just like the most nonsensical stuff, Louisa, like, oh my gosh, like my coffee's so cold, like just like silly stuff, like first world problems, like Brody, like what are we mad about?
Right.
And I was like, a friend of mine gave me a book of positive quotes. It was actually called the Book of Positive Quotations. And I took a quote out and I put it on my Facebook. And people liked it. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I'll do this every day. I have a book of positive quote out. So I started doing that every day. And months went by. And me and my wife figured out, we're told we were going to have a child. So this is early 2012. And one day I woke up and I can't find a book. So I'm like, I can't find a book. And so I made my own quote. And people still liked it. So I'm like, well, screw the book. I'll just make my own quote every day. So I started making my own quote every day. And then months went by, and a friend of mine, my friend Stephanie, we were in Rockaway, New Jersey. We were Panera Bread. And she goes, where do you get your quotes from? I said, I just make them up. And she's like, you should write a blog. And I'm like, I literally said to her, I was like, what the hell? I thought it was like a new disease or something. And she was like, I can start a WordPress site for you. So she starts a WordPress site for me. And I started writing a blog, and I called it The Power of Positivity.
Wow.
And every Saturday, I would do that. And after a while, like right before my son was born, I was like, well, I want to write a book. Well, how are you going to write a book? I just Googled it. I was like, how do you write a book? And Google told me. So my first book came out, The Power of Positivity, Controlling Where the Ball Bounces. And I said, well, I want to start sharing my story. Because I started seeing that my words on paper were impacting people. And we looked at the analytics of the website. There are people in Germany, Vietnam. Like I was like, I'm a kid from New Jersey, and I got these people from Vietnam that are reading my blog. This is wow. And so every Saturday I did the blog, and then I did the book, and then after the book, I just put on my Instagram speaker, on my Facebook speaker, and I never spoke anywhere. And anybody that would say, "Would you like to speak?" I said, "Yeah." And I spoke first 9 months for free. And in my book bag, I still have the check from 2012. I had a check for $100 that someone gave me to speak. And I said, when this has more zeros at the end of it, I never want to forget this moment. And I kept it. I never cashed it. In the time where I really needed to definitely cash it, I didn't. And then it just started to take off. In 2015, I spoke in England for the first time. Now I've spoken in England like 6 or 7 times. I've been to Dubai. I've been to Africa. I've been to Saudi Arabia. I've been to all these dope places and met all these amazing people. And it's literally the grace of God. Like it's just divine work that's happening, because I don't have any PR person. I don't have any team. It's just me. My wife does the website, and I do everything else. And here we are.
I love that. I absolutely love, and I think, it was ingrained in you from your mom. It's just like the grind. I'm just going to grind to the top.
Mm-hmm. She's a 5'2 1/4" lion, and she always makes me say the quarter too, because she always says like she's 5'2 1/4. I'm like, Mom, that quarter doesn't really mean that much, but she always makes me say a quarter. But she is a lioness, and I was just raised by such a strong, powerful, and determined woman.
Yeah.
And when some of my guy speaker friends are like, how'd you go and speak at this women's only, event? I said, well, one, I appreciate women have a different perspective, because I was raised by one. My mom had to be 2 parents, and just to see how strong women are. I always tell dudes this all the time. I said, in terms of strength, we're not even close to women. Like we're not even, they like literally God has picked them to create life. I said, no dude's going through that. We would have been checked out for that. I said the population would be 100 people, so it's like, I just have a different perspective. So when I go and I speak on these stages in front of these women empowerment events, I'm like, I get it. Like I can tell you the single mothers, like as I'm speaking, I can tell you the single mothers, and I start to talk, like they start to tear up.
Yeah.
And I can see them shaking their head, and I'm like, one of the ladies, I told her, she said, I hope my son talks about me the way you talk about your mom. And I said, understand something. I said, your son is already feeling that, right? And at some point, like you'll never really realize how much. Like my mom, to this day, I talk about her all the time, tell her how amazing she is all the time. She doesn't really know the extent of what she's done, how she's impacted my life, but it's just a beautiful thing. I won the lottery. God, didn't have me, have 2 parents, but he blessed me with such a powerful parent that, I'm able to be who I am today.
Yeah. And that's the testament of, you don't know what your legacy is going to be. Like what she's instilled in you, you have gone out and touched thousands of people because of her. Because if you had a different experience, it might have turned out differently.
Yeah.
But because of her and what she did, now you're out there touching thousands of lives, and that's her legacy.
Yeah, that's her. And I told her that it's funny. She never saw me speak until when I was at Blair Academy. They had this thing called Skeptics, and I was speaking and coaching, and I asked her to come to it. And I spoke in front of the students, and she heard me speak about her for the first time. And I was just like, Mom, you got to, like, my third book, there's a chapter called Tina Thomas the Great, dedication to my mom. And I was like, Mom, I just want you to understand, like, how much you mean to me, like, how much you've been to my life. Like, the way you brought us up, like, this is why I am who I am. You know, so, and she just like, oh, baby boy, you don't have to talk about me. Like, you know, she acts like it's no big deal, like it's nothing. But yeah, for all you sons out there, man, mothers are the most precious things on the earth. That's like, it's literally a gift from God. So make sure that you're telling them that every single day.
I love that. I love that. Listen, man, I could talk to you all day. You are just full of light, and I love your energy. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing part of your story. And I'm motivated. I need to go do something.
Like, I'm about to go do some push-ups real quick.
I'm gonna go do something.
Well, I appreciate you having me. This has been great. I'm just honored to be on your show.
Thank you so much. This has been another episode of Make Kind Loud, conversations that turn up the volume. And Cornel has dropped so many nuggets of wisdom today. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And we'll see you guys next week on another episode of Make Kind Loud, conversations that turn up the volume. Bye.